And this morning, the big news is Mr. Bennet comes to Washington. Not Mr. Hanok, because that would actually do something, but they couldn't get Hanok out of Modi'in. He didn't have enough T-shirts, and so he's got, yeah, I know. Yeah, the question, you are part of a very exclusive club right now because someone asked Barry Phillips the other day how many shirts he has. So, you guys maybe can get together sometime and compare who has, does he have more shirts or do you have more T-shirts?
Well, at this time, we don't know. I don't know if this would fit Barry's personality as well as it does mine. Today's T-shirt says, "When the time comes, there will not be enough people left to bury the dead."
And if there's ever a T-shirt that was designed with, you probably looked at the tag on that and it said Hanok Young Incorporated.
I can't believe it. Yeah, amazing.
All right, Hanok, let's get to
Okay.
it. We're going to talk. Bennett is coming over reportedly to wake up Joe Biden. We'll see how that goes. But what do you think this trip's all about?
Okay. It's a very important trip on the level that during the Netanyahu years, particularly when Donald Trump was president, and I guess some of our listeners are listening to this and twitching because I used past tense.
Yeah.
Because wasn't it this past Friday was the latest, he's going to come galloping into town?
Yeah, it was. Once again, it was. And I mean, just to consider and think about for a moment the bromance that was there between the two of them. But let's move on before we get in total trouble here.
Okay. So it was clearly not a bipartisan relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That Israel was in tune at the time, lockstep with the Trump administration. Biden, this is effectively the third Obama administration.
Cool. Yeah.
And our relations with it remain to be seen. It is not a good situation for Prime Minister Bennet to be in, because I don't think anyone in the American government has any clue where America is heading. It's so funny. During the Trump administration, I made a remark at a congregation I was speaking at, and I made reference to, as America continues to retreat from the world stage. And I was brutally attacked for that comment, but then paused and said, look at what's going on in Syria, look at what's going on in Iraq. And they're like, looked at me like, all right, yeah, well, in any case, this Afghanistan debacle is beyond belief.
Oh yeah.
There's just not enough words to say about it. America is desperate for a deal with Iran, which is a really bad situation.
Yeah, considering that Gantz is saying even this morning that Iran is about 2 months away from a nuclear bomb.
Yeah. It's a very, very difficult situation. Our security situation continues to deteriorate. We're being played as if Hamas and Hezbollah were marionettes.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason there were violent demonstrations at the Gaza border was, I don't know if you caught this. It was something about Al-Aqsa being on fire. What is that a reference to? In 1969, when I was just a mere little boy, even before my bar mitzvah, there was an Australian Christian tourist, not a Jew, certainly not an Israeli, a loon from the moon, who set a fire in the El Aqsa Mosque.
Wow.
1969. You can look it up online, El Aqsa fire. He was judged criminally insane, and to the best of my knowledge, remains in a mental institution. Why is this rehashed after 52 years? There's no end to the excuses that can come up. And when you watch the footage, that while they're demonstrating, a guy sneaks up, sticks a pistol. By the way, they're supposed to be unarmed demonstrators, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sticks a pistol in and shoots one of our border policemen in the head. May he have a refuah shlema, complete recovery. However, they're controlling the tempo.
Yeah.
They send over arson balloons when they want. We bomb them. But again, they have an infinite number of children and women that they're willing to sacrifice as human shields and in the front of demonstrations.
Oh yeah, total cowardly. I said this one time in a class I was taking. Somebody was asking about Islam, and I said it's a religion of cowardice. And they said, but what about all these? I said they stand behind their women and children. We're going to see that in Afghanistan. We're going to see that in various places because that whole system feels empowered right now. And why? Because they have been empowered, no doubt about that.
It's beyond belief, and that actually ties in with events that we're commemorating right now.
Yeah.
The horrific massacre in Hebron in 1929.
Now, Hebron is a place to bring people a little bit up to speed, make sure that everybody understands it, and that's kind of the purpose of where we wanted to go today. Hebron is somewhere that many people don't go to because since the Oslo War, it's been very difficult. The times that I've been there, we've been on bulletproof buses. I've been there hearing gunshots. It's quite the interesting place. You get off the bus and you are mobbed by little Palestinian children that are asking for money. There's a lot of pickpockets. It's just a bad situation, but is really we talk about the heart of Israel. You can't get any closer. This is an incredible place. Going back to the cave of the patriarchs, Abraham is buried there. Sarah is buried there. It is thought that this is where Adam and Hava are buried. The entrance to Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. So, I mean, this is a place that should be visited by everybody, but it's not visited by many because you just can't get there.
Well, it's interesting. I was last in Hebron probably about 2 years ago. I mean, pretty much for the last 18 months, I haven't gone much of anywhere.
Yeah.
But I have a strong personal connection to Hebron, which we'll get to. But let's set the stage for what happened in 1929. In 1929, again, remember, there's the quote unquote British mandate. The British Army is occupying the land of Israel. Ostensibly, England, under the Balfour Declaration, was given the mandate to control the land of Israel by the League of Nations, the predecessor to the United Nations, in order to create a Jewish national homeland. They began walking that one back before the ink was even dry on the Balfour Declaration.
Mm.
Classic. Now, what was the Jewish community doing in Hebron? This is a community that was there literally from time immemorial.
Mm-hmm.
It was both a Sephardic community, Jews from Arab countries or descended from Jews from Spain and Portugal that had been there before people could even remember. They were poor, they were very religious, they stuck to themselves. There was an Ashkenazi community from Eastern Europe, what we would term today Haredim, ultra-Orthodox, yeshiva students, people in the ultra-Orthodox community. They actually lived a bit separately in Hebron. They were a minority, they were peaceful. Understand something. They weren't quote unquote settlers. They weren't militant quote unquote Zionists.
Mm-hmm.
These were religious people by themselves. The Arabs went on a murder frenzy for days. The British policemen were either unwilling and or unable to stop the murderers. Now, because we have children that listen to our program, I will not go into detail, but suffice it to say, rape, maiming, gouging of horrific things occurred. 67 Jews lost their lives. Others were maimed for life. The British government then took the surviving Jews from Hebron and moved them out of Hebron. Let's fast forward to 1967. It's June 1967. Israel is fighting Syria and Egypt. Jordan enters the war. Jordan loses resoundingly. Tzahal, the IDF, come into Hebron. Do you know that from almost every window was flying a white flag of surrender? Because they remembered what they had done to Jews in 1929. The reason it's not just a commemoration of a horrific historic event, but it shows what happens when Jews are unable to defend themselves, and it shows the true nature of the Arab population.
Yeah.
Remember, there was no state of Israel. There were no quote unquote settlements.
Mm-hmm.
No one was clamoring for a Palestinian state. None of that stuff had been invented yet. But it was still good to slaughter Jews. The cry in Arabic, Idbach el Yahud, slaughter the Jews. And they also were screaming, the government is with us. I can't say that as well in Arabic, meaning that the British government. And that ties in exactly with the fact that Prime Minister Bennet is there. Now, we're never going to know what really is going to be happening in these meetings in Washington.
Oh, no.
There'll be press conferences. There'll be all kinds of things. Biden will be handed a whole series of things to read from. I mean, it's for years, Mike, I've been saying that the America of today is not the America that I grew up in.
True.
And of course, people would always make a joke about it that, hey, Hanoch, y'all grew up in New York City. That's not America anyway. And we'd all laugh. The America of today is not the America that it was even a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea that a woke, quote unquote, administration could do what they did, knowing what the Taliban will do to the women of Afghanistan. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
this isn't a case of, gee, Mike, what are your, I was filling out an application for something. I think this was through the Social Security Administration. Good citizen that I am. And it asked something about like, what are your favorite, what pronouns do you favor? And I didn't understand that. That's like to whether I want to refer to myself as a him, a them. So I wrote in superhero. I self-identify as a superhero. America allows me to do this. In Israel, I'm not cut any slack. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I went into my gym yesterday morning, and the security guard, this is the thing that's funny. We've always had security guards when you enter malls.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In America, you have security guards when you leave them to make sure you're not stealing merchandise. It's a different way.
Yeah.
So the guy asked me, I open up my bag, and of course, it's obvious I'm going to the gym. But I am masked, it's whatever. So he said to me, Yesh lecha neshek? Do you have weapons? So I said, no, in Hebrew. So he said, Lama lo? Why not? And I wanted to say, oh, is Mike Clayton putting you up to this? Really? Why aren't I? Ask the police. They have a psychological exam. I said, a chance you'd ever pass it.
Yeah. That's good. That's funny.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
this is great.
Yeah,
You
the total difference here, is amazing, the two different cultures. But to get to this thing of Afghanistan, of Hebron, of the current administration, of all these things, tying it all together, is very basically it comes down to this: there is a war going on. There is a spiritual war that is happening around us. It's not new. It didn't just start yesterday. It goes all the way back to the book of Bereshit, Cain and Abel. It goes all the way through scripture. And I've been reading through, I just finished First Kings this morning. This story of the war of good and evil. I'll never forget someone years ago, I love the one-liners. I'm kind of famous for my one-liners. One of my favorite ones was not something I came up with. I wish I had of, but it was this: that we should not look at life as a playground, but a battleground. There is a war that's happening around us, but in recent years, we're called to choose a side. And I think that probably Joshua Waller put this into a song as well as, or better than anything I've ever known. There is a line in the sand. Period. We have to make a choice. Where are you going to stand? Period.
But instead of doing that, some people are allowing themselves to be distracted. People tell me all the time, I can't understand your government in Israel. Americans in general don't understand democracy outside of the American system. They didn't understand it with the British, which is still basically two parties.
Yeah.
But anyway, they know little to nothing about Israel. They know nothing about our history. They know nothing about the context of the land of Israel in the Second Temple period, where Yeshua came from. but they will share 57 different videos on the most bizarro topics. And I love when when people send me these things like, the shot is a kill shot. I know you don't want to discuss this whole COVID vaccination thing, but you know what? If that becomes your whole life, thinking about this, teaching about it, sharing about it. I don't know too many people that are virologists. My second master's degree is a master's in public administration from New York University. Good school, cost me close to $60,000 in health policy with a specialization in healthcare finance.
Mhm.
By the way, in case you were wondering, I studied the Obama plan when it came out and could not figure out how it could possibly be funded. But
Well,
anyway, that's a whole different story. A whole different story. People are allowing themselves to get caught up in everything else. They are allowing themselves to get distracted. They are allowing themselves to take themselves out of the game. People have stopped going to their congregations. Why? They're busy running around without masks, unvaccinated, all that. So it's not the government, their state government, that's telling them they can't do it anymore. Why aren't they doing it? Why are people running off to sports games instead of going to their congregations on Shabbat?
yeah,
Why?
I mean, I saw this when this whole thing started happening, and not to get into the politics of all of those things, but I saw it happening because what I saw when they started to shut down churches, and all of a sudden churches found Zoom and churches found live stream. I knew at that point that there was going to be thousands and thousands of churches that never opened the doors again, because people figured out, wait a minute, I can sit here in my jammies and I can watch what's going on, because the service was not about service. It was about entertainment. This may sound judgmental to some, but most people go to a service to be entertained, not to
Absolutely.
be a part of. And so, that's a whole mindset. And we've got that with, I know many Messianic congregations that are closing down now because, well, we can just sit at home and watch somebody on video, and that's why our congregation was a decision
Yeah.
that we're not going to live stream. Do I think that there's people out there that would probably tune in? Probably, possibly, maybe, I don't know, if they want to hear something else that I say. But I just decided that we were not going to go that route. We were going to go with face-to-face relationships. And I believe that in our day, we need to be developing relationship. It may be our very survival in the days ahead. You cannot,
Absolutely.
social media is not a relationship. A relationship may be, you may be able to nourish a relationship through social media, but social media itself is not a relationship.
A number of years ago, I think it was about 2015, there was a Hanukkah conference sponsored by our friends at the Oasis Life Center
Yeah.
in California. I was a speaker, Rico Cortez was a speaker, Ed Harris, what's his name from Oklahoma? Oh, Monty Judah. Yeah. Yeah, he was there too. The thing that was fascinating is the people that ran the conference had this great idea. They were going to make live streaming available for something like $5 or $10. So for like, I think it was $10 maximum, maybe 15 at the outside. For $15 for 3 days, you didn't have to go anywhere. And guess what? hardly anyone came to the Oasis Life Center.
Yeah.
So here it was, I travel around, it's been 23 trips to America between August 2013 and February 2020. 23 times I've come. And it was all people say, why don't you just sit in Israel and do, just put out videos? Because I need to meet people. I need to build a relationship. They need to look into my eyes to realize that I'm, you did it when we first met, when you interrogated me in South Carolina. It is about relationships. And when Hashem promises that he will reunite Judah and Ephraim, he didn't mean virtually.
Yeah.
He didn't mean I will create the ability for you to have more than 5,000 friends on Facebook. Whoa, dude, amazing. No. Facebook is a tool to enable you while you're distant to do things.
Yeah.
That's all.
Sounds good
It
to
is
me.
not a substitute.
I got that.
Show enough.
All right. Well, thank you for your words of wisdom, the history lesson of, hey, I actually gave you that today. What?
We haven't announced a birthday in a long time.
Uh-oh.
I actually found out and forgot that several weeks ago, Jeremiah Connor. Okay. Now, with all the sisters, the guy's got 11, 12 sisters. I don't even know how many. There are a couple of guys. He's got an older brother who's, off. He's one of those black ops assassins for the CIA. No one ever sees him. He's, we don't talk about him. But Jeremiah is in your neck of the woods.
Yeah. And every time you mention something like that, I have to pay for it on Shabbat. So,
but we have a symbiotic relationship, Mike. I get us in trouble and you help get us out of trouble. I like that.
Yeah, that's scary, is that I'd be the one that would get us out of trouble.
I'll tell you, the times are changing, man. That's why.
So. All right. Take care of yourself.
Shalom lehitraot. See you soon.
You got it.
Bye-bye.